Hello, everyone. May I have your attention, please? Thank you for waiting. It's now 12 o'clock, so we're going to start right on time. First of all, I wanted to welcome you all. Thank you for making time for this event. It's called Messages to the ICJ, International Court of Justice. It's an event partnership by Pacific Island Studios Fighting Climate Change and Greenpeace Australia Pacific. We're very fortunate to have a lot of great speakers today, so we're keen to hear what you all have to say. But before we begin, as this is a storytelling event, we in the Pacific, we pride ourselves as good and very talented storytellers. So I'd like to start off with a story of my own to open it up. All right, so when I was little, growing up, my grandmother used to tell me many stories about our origin, a story about our people and where we come from. As most Pacific Island stories go, this one begins on an island in the Solomon Islands called Small Malaita. As the story goes, on an island in South Malaita, Solomon Islands, there lived a mother and her two sons. They were the only inhabitant of that island. Their home was very close to the beautiful clear blue ocean, but there was one rule that the mother always reminded her sons about each morning. Don't go into the ocean. Don't swim in the ocean. This was a golden rule for the family. It so happens that one day when the mother went off to the garden, she left her two sons at home. It was getting late, but the mother did not return at the usual time, when she normally does. So the two boys decided that the mother would not find out if they just took a dip. The dip turned into an hour. The boys were still in the ocean when the mother returned and looked for them. She looked everywhere except the ocean. Eventually, she confronted her worst fear and looked towards the ocean. And there out in the distance in the ocean were two sons, but were now turned into sharks. They saw their mother and came as close to the shore as possible. And as the story goes, it is our belief that they told their mother that they will always be close to their mother and will look after her and her people for years to come. To this day, it is our belief that there are two sharks that protect us whenever we go out into the ocean. And we have a special respect for them. They are our totem because they are the sons of our island. This is just one story of my people, conveying our understanding, our beliefs, and relationship with our surroundings to our people. And we preserve that by passing it down to stories and storytelling. For my people, these stories are traditionally shared after the sun set and not when it is up. But my grandma was always unconventional and always told me this story whenever I begged her. So I'm happy to share with you today. So throughout the Pacific, storytelling through various mediums such as songs, poems, chants, paintings, dance, and other forms of art has always been our way of articulating ourselves and conveying our understanding of our surroundings to people. And most especially to our little children. The significance of the culture of storytelling for Pacific can be seen in the concept of storian in Vanuatu, whananga in Tonga, and talanoa. Although some may point out that is overused, it is deeply rooted in the Fijian culture. The ICJ campaign is a great opportunity for storytelling as well. Our stories need to be told by our people at the highest level possible, because that is how our people best express themselves. And we continue on that tradition, which we hope and fight that our children too will practice it in generations to come. We are very fortunate today to be joined by some brilliant storytellers from different parts of the Pacific and around the world who will share their climate stories, the realities they face on the ground, the hopes that they have, and the fears for the future, especially in light of the advisory opinion. So without further ado, we will now hear some powerful climate stories, which the ICJ should hear as it decides on the advisory opinion. And this is why our stories matter. Thank you. I can see that we have our brilliant speakers here today. I would ask the speakers, if they please, if I call your name, to come up front and stand in the middle, and please introduce yourself the way you want to be introduced and share with us your message to the ICJ, your story in whatever art form that you have chosen. So firstly, we will hear from, I see Flora just arriving. If you're ready, Flora from Vanuatu. I have heard her speak and she is an amazing storyteller. She will be given a chance to introduce herself and say her story. Thank you, Flora.
Hello, Olgeta. Talofa Lafa, Bula, Olwantok. My name is Flora Vano. I'm an indigenous local Ni Vanuatu woman. I'm a feminist. I'm a climate change activist. And I'm from the front line of the communities that are facing climate crisis. My story here today is to bring you to the realities of what we are facing. When we look at the losses that we have faced every day, what disasters have taken from us, what severe weather have taken from us, what sea level rise have taken from us, what high tide, tsunami, volcanoes, cyclones, droughts, it has taken a lot from us. Where can we ask for support? Where can we ask for advice? Every single day, we will be thinking as a mother, would we see next month, would we see our children getting married? Would we be there? Would we celebrate with our generations? This is a constant worry for women at the forefront in communities. When we look at protection, it became our daily life. We have to be able to think ahead so that we can survive the next day, we can survive tomorrow, we can survive the next week. I'm so happy that we got a lot of next day, tomorrow, next week, next year in our calendar. That will bring hope. For every day we will be looking towards another new day. However, preparedness, planning, early warning, early action, who would assist us? Who would support us? We are facing the brunt of what we did not do. As a mother, as an auntie, seeing other women in other countries having to live a normal life, and we have to prepare every day. Preparedness, preparedness, preparedness. We rebuild back, we rebuild back, we rebuild back. The time you started to rebuild, one comes. The time you thought you were resilient, another one comes in and totally disorientated your mental state. And if we look, climate change have done a lot of issues, increases gender-based violence, domestic violence, intermediate partner violence. It actually started conflict at home. And for a family to lead their own communities, for a woman to lead in her own house, she needs support. If her livelihood has been taken away from her, who will support her? If state have gone to a far extended, who will support the state? Who will support us? I think I'm very vocal about it because I have seen a lot of loss of life over the cyclones that we have faced. 2015 in Vanuatu, Cyclone Pam. 2020, Cyclone Harold. This year alone, we were happy that there's no much casualty, but our constant worry is the climate crisis is reshaping our lands. It's reshaping our thinking. It's reshaping us as indigenous in the front line. Our traditional knowledge has been impacted directly and indirectly. We are now calling out for states, leaders around the globe, not only in our region, to stand and support us on what we have done. The ICJ advisory opinion is a feminist issue, is a women's rights issue, is a community crisis issue, is a state issue. We need a very, very strong opinion that will give us hope for tomorrow. Tomorrow, hope is not there, I'm telling you. If we keep on running at the same pace, we keep on singing the same songs, it won't change. We need to have amplifiers in across the four corners of this planet and let the world know that we are being affected, our survival is being threatened, our lifeline is in your hands. Thank you, Tomas.
Thank you, Tomas, Flora. Thank you for showing strength among all the losses and all the struggles, but having strength to stand up here and share your story, the strength of the women back in your own home, and leading by with your country demanding the ICJ to lend an advisory opinion. So thank you, Flora. Our next speaker, most of the speakers don't need no introductions as their work speak for themselves. But our next speaker today is Lili Teafa from Tuvalu. Please introduce yourself and begin.
Good afternoon, beautiful people of this struggling and confusing world. I will leave my introduction later because I believe that my voice echoes 11,000 beating hearts. So please listen carefully and hold your tears so I won't cry as well. Vikinga yo koe tamana de langi, awa ko koe kumanui at the whakamoemoenga. Tālo whakatoa koutou. It is my pleasure to be in front of you all, beautiful people. This is a message for the International Court of Justice that we need the strongest advisory opinion on climate change and human rights. Koi koe, who are you? I am Alessandra Klaiseluka. I am the Olusina, or the elder from Tuvalu. I am a proud Tuvaluan, a Christian who believes that the world needs to know that God created this world. I believe that as leaders, it is our duty to keep it safe as God has kept us safe from the beginning. Koi koe. I am Kaylin Mani, a Mātua, or mother from Tuvalu. My duty is to ensure that there is enough food for my children. This climate crisis has affected our families so much as our lands have been intruded by salt water, making it hard to garden. There had also been severe droughts on our islands, making it harder to survive. I fear for the future of my children. Koi koe. I am Tarina Whakalupe. I am a Talavou, or a youth of Tuvalu, and a member of the Akanda Alliance, or the LGBTQI community in Tuvalu. I want the world to know that Tuvalu is my home. It is my safe haven. It is the only place in this world that I don't fear being discriminated upon because of the way I am. Koi koe. I am Alo Amateafa. I am a Tamaliki, or a child of Tuvalu. I live freely in Tuvalu without worry, not knowing that my future is dusty. Koi koe. I am Lili Teafa. I am no politician. I am no expert of climate change. I am a storyteller, a youth, a climate activist, and most importantly, I am a daughter of the big ocean state, Tuvalu. I am here today because in my 28 years of living, I have always known about this climate crisis. I am here because I am disappointed that nothing has been done in these 28 years of COP. I am here because I am heartbroken that as the fourth smallest country in the world with a near to zero contribution to the climate crisis, we are at the forefront of the devastating impacts of climate change. I am here because I believe in the Ulusina of my country. I am here because I support the Tuvalu families that are in jeopardy because of the selfishness of big country polluters. I am here because I do not want my people to move away from their safe haven. I am here because I am fighting for the Tamaliki of Tuvalu that do not know that their future or their dreams are floating in a dusty, uncertain future. Most importantly, I am here to call on world leaders. Stop hiding behind your politics. Stop hiding behind your excuses and act upon your promises. Stay true to your commitments and pay for the damages that you caused. Goi goi. I am a daughter who came from the umbilical cord of a Tuvaluan warrior. I am from the land who bore many Pacific champions. I am a child of Tuvalu, calling on the International Court of Justice that our lands are dying, our ecosystems are dying, our people are dying, and big country polluters are held accountable for this catastrophe. Goyao, who am I? My name is Tuvalu. 24 square kilometers in land, 11,000 beating hearts, and I approve this message. Tuvalu te loto, Tuvalu te whakamoemoenga, te aliki te tautai. Save Tuvalu to save the world. Whaftai lasi, Tuvalu mdea toa.
Whawhetai, Lily, thank you so much for sharing the powerful message, and especially for reminding us of why we are doing this. We're fighting for our homes so that we choose for our children whether to move or to stay, and we want to stay. So thank you for reminding us. The next speaker we have is Raki Up from West Papua. I'd love for you to introduce yourself and
Thank you so much, sister and family members, for giving me this space. My name is Raki Up. I am the international spokesperson for the Free West Papua campaign and the Green State Vision. The reason I stand here in full solidarity of the ICJO advise your opinion, and hopefully it's going to be a very strong one, because these big corporations or governments or bankers are not taking the responsibility that they should have taken. That's why we're in this mess. To share my story, I want you to feel the pain of the indigenous people in West Papua. As we see the colonial line in the map right behind here, obviously West Papua, together with Papua New Guinea, is the world's largest tropical island, housing the third largest rainforest in the world, with one of its most unique biodiversity landscapes. Understanding the power structures and the injustice that happened is exactly what we should see back in the court, in advisory opinion. Because understanding the injustice is understanding how the world's largest gold mine located in West Papua, the second largest copper mine, once a mountain, has transformed to the biggest hole that you can see from outer space, polluting the rivers, violating human rights, and deforestation. These are the root causes of the climate change. Carbon emissions is the very end result of what happened before that. Deforestation, polluting rivers, violating human rights, and at the end, we got these carbon bumps, resulting in more victims. So I want to welcome you in my traditional way. Wah, 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 my ancestors, your ancestors. All the victims now, in the past, and which will come. So we reflect the urgency that we are in. I hope that you will understand that if these corporations aren't being taken accountable for what they've done, who else will hold them accountable for the destruction that they've caused for so many people? Because the loss and damage for the language, for indigenous peoples who won't come back, the graves that will disappear below water, our villages that will disappear, and even island state countries, and nobody has been held accountable. That's exactly why I stand here in full solidarity with this campaign, because my families are taking the lead in climate justice campaigns or initiatives. And if we win this, it doesn't mean we are there, because it isn't binding. The laws in there are binding. So we want to see a lot of court cases that will bring these corporations and governments to the court to make sure that they take the responsibility. After that, I want you to realize that we are heading to a 3 degrees global warming. So yes, we got funds here, like 50 billion. Even if we got 100 billions, the loss and damage will continue if we will follow this line. So the struggle continues well. So I will to encourage you to understand the power structures that are below everything that crosses this. And the last UN IPCC report is very clear. Colonialism is one of the main drivers of what brought us here. And these power structures, militarism, capitalism, racism, is at the root causes. Just one example, the Notre Dame, the church in Paris. In 1 day, 2 days, they got $1 billion. This is the double standards in how they deal with, loss and damage. If you compare to what we have faced here in the region for more than 50 years. That's why I applaud all of you, and I want to thank my family for this space, and I will encourage you in everything you do. Keep telling stories, because that's what indigenous peoples have done for thousands of years. And we are the guardians of more than 80% of the world's remaining biodiversity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Thomas, Raki, especially for reminding us of the voice that is often not at the table, the indigenous people of West Papua. And thank you for standing in solidarity with this initiative as well. Our fourth speaker for today needs no introduction, but I will say his name anyway, even though he doesn't like the way I pronounce it. It's Shiva. If he's here, please come front. Thank you, Shiva.
Testing. Sorry, guys, I was told about speaking here about half an hour ago. My name is Shiva Gandhan. I am the head of Pacific for Greenpeace Australia Pacific. But first of all, I'm a Fijian. Nisambula Vinaka Vuvale. I say Vuvale because it means family connected by our soul. And we have a lot of urgent work to do if we want our global family, our global Vuvale, to be able to protect what we all hold dear. That is our connection to our Vanua, which is our land, and our connection to our Wasa Wasa, which is our oceans. Na Vanua kena isao, e waki vatatu. E na veika ka vakayandori tomada maikina. Se sa vakayandori tiko kina, ke na veika esetu me na vakayandori kina. In the Pacific, the reason why we are so connected to our land is because it has the heartbeat and the cultural pulse of our past, of our present, and what will happen in the future. There's a beautiful concept in many parts of the Pacific where the word for the umbilical cord of a baby is whenua, which is exactly the same word for ancestral land. When a baby is born, that umbilical cord, the whenua, is taken to the ancestral whenua and buried in there. This is the first connection for the little one to the ancestors who walked before them, paving a path of humility, love, and a true connection to the spirit of our cultures. But sea level rise, due to global warming, is washing away these truly deep connections. Young people have to move from their ancestral land, laying bare a path of complete disconnection from those who walked before them. I was in Vanuatu earlier this year and visited the beautiful island village of Pele. I was there to collect stories of resilience, stories of loss and damage, and stories of climate impact so that we can make a powerful case in taking climate change to the world's highest court, the International Court of Justice. What I saw in Pele was extremely heartbreaking. Our Pacific Ainga buries their loved ones close to their homes, keeping the connection to the ancestral spirits. I walked with the chief, the mothers and their children, and we picked up the remains, the bones of their loved ones. The sea had come in 20 meters, wiping away the graves of their loved ones. I was picking up bones, but knowing not whose bone this is. You are then having to dig up the remaining graves and move it to a higher place or somewhere further in from where the sea has reached. Possible in Pele, heartbreaking, but possible. But in Tuvalu, there is no higher ground. The highest point is 2 meters above sea level. There is no inland. The widest point in Tuvalu is around 400 meters. Straight after the Pele visit, the beautiful island nation of Vanuatu got devastated by a Category 4 and a Category 5 cyclone, not in a month, but within 48 hours. While evacuating people from one village community to another in your banana boat, we are facing the danger of being wiped away by the sea. What Cyclone Judy had left behind was completely destroyed by Cyclone Kevin. During Cyclone Kevin, it was chaos. The powerful winds rattled the door intensely. I held the door of my island motel for 10 hours of wind that would rip through the villages, wiping thousands of homes in Vanuatu, 10 hours of winds that blew off the doors and roofs of the rooms next to me, 10 hours of knee-deep water while finding a time to evacuate an old lady to stay in my room, 10 hours to destroy homes, communities, cultures, and the proud resilience of the Ni Vanuatu people that was built over generations. The next day, the people of Vanuatu did what I feel do better than most people in this world. They picked up whatever was left and started to rebuild again. They give you the last remaining bananas on the trees when you try to take humanitarian aid to them. They give you a hug so deep in love to say, we will be all right. They smile with tears in their eyes, with pain in their hearts. How long can our people in the Pacific be resilient and continue to pick up from something that they have least contributed to? You have people negotiating a tweak in a paragraph, to a text, to a document when our islands are literally sinking. This process is about us. This process is about our people. This process is about Pacific Islanders. Having to negotiate about the survival of our islands, survival of our cultures, and the survival of our people, indigenous people, the climate vulnerable people across the world. As a Pacifica person, as a Pacific Islander, I have a message to the ICJ to make this about the people. The billions of people who are impacted by climate change, the billions who have their human rights impacted daily. I leave you with this. I'm the custodian of my ancestors' knowledge, and I hope my future will be the custodians of mine.
Vinaka Siva, thank you so much for sharing and also for reminding us of what land means to us in the Pacific. And that is why we're doing this. It is our heartbeat and it transcends throughout all the Pacific, and also for a powerful message to the ICJ. The next speaker for us today is Joseph Sikulu from the Kingdom of Tonga and a part of 350. I will let him introduce himself, but his work speaks for himself as well. So thank you, Joseph.
Thank you for having me today. I don't have many words who are prepared, and I think like many of you, these negotiations over these last few weeks have beared on us in different ways. So I do want to start by just welcoming all of that you're feeling, because I am also carrying a lot. Welcome the feelings of anxiety or stress or despair, the tiredness that you feel from being in those rooms or having to repeat the stories, the heaviness that comes with reliving the trauma of having to retell your stories every single day and what that is for you. For me, and I know like for many of you, we believe that this system is broken. It's 30 years of us coming to COP. Every year we are here in this space feeling like we have to beg for our existence, to advocate for everything that we need for our islands. This is COP28 and we are still here showing up in the same way that we do every year. But this system is broken. The ICJ has an opportunity to give us another pathway. One thing we know to be true is that we are not all equals in the eyes of the law. There are those who operate differently from us. There are those who have different set of rules, different sets of standards that continue to let them to pollute, that continue to let them to hold up on our negotiations, that continue to let them hold the finances that are needed by our communities in order to adapt and grow resilient in this climate crisis. But that doesn't happen because the system is broken. And so the highest court in this land has an opportunity to issue an advisory opinion that could help us be another toolbox, that can help us be another way to advocate for our living, that can help us create something outside of this broken system where we can continue to fight for what is needed for our people. Just as I was introduced today, my name is Joseph Sikulu. I'm with the Pacific Climate Warriors, and I am a child of Tonga, but I grew up in Australia. You can ask any of the whale operators in Tonga and they will tell you the real Tongans are the whales because they come to Tonga to give birth to their babies, where the rest of us have our babies and go. That was me, but I'm the product of immigration, and so is my story. And so the one that I want to tell you today is of where I grew up in Australia. And here, with the Australian Pavilion in the background, one of the biggest perpetrators and the blockers for anything that we need in terms of climate is right next door. Before we came here, we went on a journey to Gomeroi country, and Gomeroi country is in Narrabri, northern New South Wales. And when you look out at Gomeroi country in Narrabri, you're looking at the vastness of forest, and it has mountains in the background. You'll be driving through the country and you will just see mountains. 10 years ago, the Pacific Climate Warriors visited Gomeroi country and they stood in front of this Tarawonga mine, which is a Narrabri coal mine. And back then it was just beginning out, and they were just beginning to clear out the Laird State Forest. A few weeks ago, we had ventured ourselves there with our Pacific Climate Warriors. And as you're driving through the vastness of this land that is all green and this forest, in the back there, what you think is a mountain, the closer you get, is actually the overburden of this mine. A huge mountain made from everything that is dug up from within and placed on top. What's left is this scar of a coal mine. You see the edge of the forest slowly being pushed back. And when you talk to the traditional owners who live on that land, people like Uncle Neville Sampson, Vicky Devine, they will tell you of what it was like to live in those forests as kids. They will tell you what it was like to play in those trees. They will tell you what it was like to have their traditional areas in them and the traditional ceremonies in there. But nowadays, it's just this big scar in there. And one of the worst things about it is that in order to be able to dig these things up, they have this big machinery of big trucks with these huge, massive tires. And their tires have enough rubber in them to fill 60 tires in our cars. What happens after they reuse those tires? They throw them back into the hole. They cover it up. And so when the Indigenous people are going to come and claim the native title, what they're getting back is a mountain of tires and a big hole instead of the forest that used to be there. When we talk about the human rights impacts of climate change, we know the realities because we live with them, but they are connected to the human rights impacts of the Indigenous people who are living on the front lines of the impacts. And that's so important for us as Pacific people to stand in solidarity with them, to show that connected right from that point of impact, right from the point of extraction to the point of impact where we're feeling it, there is a long line of us fighting amongst them. And so it's important that we stand together here for the ICJ because all of the systems and the frameworks that have been built thus far are not working. They're not. And so unless we actually come together and begin to build our own systems, our own frameworks, unless the ICJ stands up and gives us the ability to be able to advocate stronger for what is needed, we will continue to see a failure with all of these negotiations. And so thank you for being here at COP every year. Thank you for continuing to fight. Thank you to our young people who, despite what they are feeling at home, stand up every single day, time after time, raising their hands, being innovative, showing new solutions, being brave in these spaces, because this world will not be the same without you. And so thank you.
Malo Apito, Joseph, thank you so much for reminding us the power of the youths, and as well as emphasizing on why this journey of the ICJ started in 2019. Students were frustrated with the deadlock in terms of the climate change regime. So thank you for that. Our next speaker is a One Talk from Solomon Islands, and she carries a lot of diverse voices with her. I'd like her to share her story as well. Tanya Afu.
Hello, Gata. Good afternoon. My name is Tanya Afu, and I am a proud Solomon Islander, a proud Welageni Ihasi in the island of Foeda in the Malaita province in Solomon Islands, and I am a proud saltwater Welageni, which means girl from Lau Lagoon. This is not the Lau Lagoon in Fiji, but in Malaita province in Solomon Islands. Sorry. I am also a member of the Pacific Island Students Fighting Climate Change and also working with the Solomon Islands Climate Action Network back in Honiara. This is a network of community-based organizations, people who are on the front line of the climate crisis in Solomon Islands. And I am happy to be here to share the story of my island and to share why I am involved in this climate space change and why the advisory opinion is very, very important to my people. Foeda Island is one of the many man-made islands in the Lau Lagoon. You might ask why it is man-made, because it is built by my ancestors. It is not built by machines, but from the traditional knowledge of my people. We call ourselves the Himalaihasi, which means the people of the sea. Our identity, our identity and our way of life is shaped by the sea that surrounds us. We are a people who live harmony with the environment and our natural resources. However, climate change changes everything for our islands. It changes the sea, the land, and the food that we eat. And it changes the way of our living as well, and our people, their mindset as well. I remember I used to spend holidays with my family, and over the years, during holidays, I have seen the changes that is happening in my village. My people have experienced the drastic impacts of climate change, such as sea level rise, the change in weather patterns, and even storms. Storms are happening daily as it not used to when there is seasons for storms. And before, it was easier to know when we have seasons for heavy rains or for storms. But now our people are finding it difficult to identify when we would have, rainfalls or storms. As we all know, as people living in the coastal areas or people of the sea, sea level rise is one of our main impacts affecting our communities. During high tides, our island is submerged. It reaches knee lengths and it flooded houses and even churches that are built on ground. Even the small field in the middle of our village where our children used to play, use as playground. This is called a labata. A labata is where our children, the place where our children use as playground. And it is also where our people come together to have community gatherings or other festivities. They use that place. But during sea level rise, it becomes submerged as well. So whilst children from developed countries are enjoying their time playing in beautiful playgrounds, the children from my village are playing in their playground being submerged by the sea during high tides. The sea level rise also forces our village people to relocate to the mainland of Malaita province. However, what would relocation mean? For us as saltwater people, relocation would mean leaving behind our family home that has been inhabited for many years. It would also mean losing our cultural identity as the saltwater people of the Lau Lagoon of Malaita province. However, I am proud of the resilience of my people. They are continuing to rebuild our island and continuing to come up with ways in order to adapt to the changing environment. For most islands in the Lau Lagoon, including Moana Island, our means of transportation is by canoe. We use the canoe to go to the market, to schools, to clinic. And when we have big storms, heavy rain, strong winds, it threatens the safety of our children. Women play a big role in caring for our families and fetching water and finding food for their family. And when there is strong winds, cyclones, women won't be able to go to the gardens because it is very dangerous for them. And even our students as well, and school children. For my village, we don't have any school. So they have to travel, they have to paddle by canoe to another village to go to school. So when we have all these cyclones and heavy rains, it will be dangerous for them as well to go to school. And this is an infringement of their basic right to access to education. I remember back in 2014, I was in high school, and we have there was a flash flooding in Honiara, and our school was forced to close down and use for shelter for the victims of the flooding. And for us, we were forced to stay at home for nearly 2 months. And so my message to the ICJ is we need a strong opinion, an opinion that will protect our human rights, the human rights of our future generation, our children, an opinion that would ensure the protection of our land and our identity as the Molaihasi, or the saltwater people of the Lau Lagoon. Thank you, Tomas.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Tomas. We'll move on to the next speaker for today. It's Rina Tereata from Rabi. Thank you, Rina.
Hello everyone. My name is Rina, and I'm proud of Banaben. I live in Fiji and raised in Rambi Island. I am a volunteer, human rights defender network, and this network is a community-based collective of Banaben activists, including myself, who are dedicated to safeguard the rights and the interests of the Banaben people. These people have suffered displacement and dispossession due to colonialism and phosphate mining. Our vision is to uphold the principle of the stewardship, justice, and self-determination for the Banaben people and their ancestral land. Our mission is to advocate for the land stewardship, defend justice of all, and promote self-determination. We aim to create sustainable, inclusive, and community-led solutions that improve the lives of our community and set an example of my people. We strive to raise global awareness of the Banaben human rights struggle and collaborate with local and international partners to advance the Banaben cause. I live on Rambi Island, Fiji, where the most Banaben reside today. Like many young people in Rambi, I am the 4th generation Banaben, and I have dreamed to one day to see my ancestral homeland, Banaben. In 1945, the Banaben community were forcefully uprooted from their homeland. Now, modern days, Kiribati to Rambi in Fiji by the British colonial administration after decades of destructive phosphate mining. Listing all the human rights violations against our people will go beyond my speaking time. But let me explain what the world must know. This year, December 15, marks the 78 years of our displacement to Rambi in 1945. 103 Banabans were forcefully relocated by the ship to Rambi. 43 elders passed away in Rambi within the first few months of their arrival. My people were forced to live in tents with only 2 weeks for food ration and no health service, education, clean water, and proper housing. Against the oath, they fought to make new lives and keep their Banaban tradition alive despite having been ripped away from their ancestral land. I honor my ancestors for their bravery and resilience because it has brought me for this far. We now have a population of over 5,000 people living in Rambi. Most of our elders who arrived in 1945 have now passed away. I still feel the hurt, grief, and trauma that our people and our ancestors experienced to this day. There is no climate justice without Banaban justice. This year, for the first time in 77 years of residing in Rambi, we hosted the first World Indigenous Day. This event served as a reminder of our people, especially the youth. We cannot replace the indigenous people on Rambi that we are indigenous to our own ancestral land. We are grateful to have 2 homes. We have a long journey ahead to develop our island. Our Banaban Settlement Act, which is very old and colonial in nature, is perhaps one of our greatest challenges in today's rapidly changing world. It hinders our development as it no longer caters to our needs and require an agent review. Based on my story of Banaban, I believe the most significant lesson is that everyone deserves the right to their indigenous land, culture, and tradition. We have been robbed of this, but are showing a fighting spirit to reconnect them today to the Banaban Human Rights Defenders Network. Our story also shows the people displaced by climate change must be provided with support and a minimum standard of care to ensure that they thrive in their new countries or communities. As a young person, I am committed to this cause. I aim to build partnership and engagement and engage in conversation with our leaders and address loss and damage, rehabilitate, regenerate Banaban and Rambi. This is what self-determination looks like for me as a young person now. Kampesin Rapa, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you very much, Rina. We'll have our next speaker, Suliafi Brianna Friend from Samoa.
Hello, Palava, everyone. I've been thinking a lot about what I would share today, the story I wanted to share. And I was actually sitting there and I was still trying to think of what I wanted to share. But I think I want to share the story of how I got these earrings and the story of these earrings. A few weeks ago, I went to Tuvalu for the first time. I went to do a climate storytelling project in Tuvalu. Little did I know before I went, my family had told me that we were part Tuvaluan, a link back home that has been lost for generations for our family in Samoa. I was told the story of my papa Ponga Patea, who left Tuvalu years ago. He went to Samoa for work. He married a Samoan woman and started our family. Our family never returned home to Tuvalu. A few weeks ago, my return was the return of our family and our lineage back to the land. The moment I touched down on Tuvalu in Funafuti Lagoon Hotel, my family started coming to my hotel room. They found out I was there and they came knocking. I met aunties and uncles and cousins that I never knew. I got picked up one night and my cousins took me on a motorcycle around the island and we stopped by our family's homes. I met my great aunt, Tokanimani. She's 90 years old. And when I entered her fale, she burst into tears. And she said, "This is Ponga's return." She called my return to Tuvalu the first time Ponga has touched Tuvalu in 3 generations. She touched my hand and she said, "This is the first time Ponga's blood has touched the whanua again." I returned to Tuvalu the same day that the Tuvalu and Australia agreement was announced. And so when I was having dinner that week with my younger cousins who are around the same age as me, I asked them if they would leave. Some of them said no, and a few of them said yes, they wanted to leave. They wanted to go to Australia and live a new life. And I sat there with my cousin, one of my 20-year-old male cousins, as he said and started talking about this life he wanted to live in Australia. And I thought about my Papa Ponga and the life that he wanted to live in Samoa. I thought about how he made the decision to move with dignity to Samoa, but he never removed my right to return to Tuvalu. And I wanted to share this story today in acknowledgement that there may be people who want to migrate, but the right of their children to return should never be taken away from them. And that is my message to the ICJ, is that this is more about this generation. This is more about the people here in the room today. Yes, some people might want to move. Yes, some people might be making these decisions, but the rights of our future generations should still be held, should still be kept. We have the right to return home. We have the right to heal generational breakage of links. We have the right to finally, within generations, 3, 2, 5, 6, return back to the land that our great ancestors called home. And I was given the great privilege to do that and to return to Tuvalu. And I promised my cousins, when they gave me these earrings at the airport, they came with ulas and earrings and gifts and falas and things that were bursting out of my suitcase. They could not fit, but we made it fit. And I told them that I would share it with my family back home. And I told them that when I go home, I will make sure to bring them back to Tuvalu. And so this is the story of these earrings, the right for these earrings to travel with me, but the right for these earrings to also go back home, and the right for everyone to have the opportunity to be linked back to their land, the land that climate change threatens, the land that we live for, the land that brings us all here today, the land that taught us the stories that we tell here today. And so I thank you all for allowing us this space to talk story and to talk power to truth and to speak the language of Pacific people through storytelling.
Pawheta Lassi Suliafi. We'll have our last speakers. Please, we're mindful of the time that we've taken, but the stories are important. Please keep it to 3 minutes or shorter. Thank you. The next speaker is Tisco King from Torres Strait Island.
I'll promise I'll be quick. I'll promise I won't cry as much, and just want to honor everyone for sharing their stories. It is a real privilege to be here and to be invited in this space. As I've always found, it feels like not just people, but a safe place and space. So kulai kina like esa poeban. Namun koe agath. Nu muruzapu aimithin. Alak nalpunka poiban. Kapakut mitamuka murabuai. Amura mubuganu. Nuzunal tish. Nai kukalag. Masignu napa kukagal zenith kesnu eso. So my name is Tishko King, and I'm a proud Kukalug woman from Kukagal Nation, the Central Island group, from an island called Masig in Zenith Kes, known as the Torres Strait Islands. And I stand here with the backing of my community, of the 13 clans of my island, with the heart of my grandma, my nene, and the spirit of my Arthur Jack, my grandpa, where I wanted to share with you, like others, our deep connection to our island home. My Arthur Jack was a pearl lugger man and a pearl diver. He used to tell me about the stories of the sea, but he also used to share with me how if we looked after the ocean would look after us, protect us, and return us home to our families. Like a lot of you here, we are here fighting for our island homes, our communities, and culture. The island of Masig is on a beautiful coral cay atoll surrounded by beautiful reef structures. It's an underwater world. And the describing the feeling is that I used to say that I have salt water pumping in my veins. I have salt water pumping in my heart. Island of Masig is in the shape of a teardrop. And they say that when you come and leave the island, you cry from a broken heart. My island home, like others, is our teacher. It is our school. It is our hospital. It provides us our medicine. It is our food source. But like many others, the climate crisis and the climate impacts are impacting and shaping the way that our island home is. Advancing seas are threatening our homes and burial sites and our accessibility to water. And it is from these extractive industries. And I am ashamed, and I am here because the Torres Strait Islands is First Nations to a petrochemical rogue state called Australia. I am here because I am a daughter of the sea. I am here because I'm the oldest of my generation. I am here because I cannot pick the bones of another grandparent from rising seas. And so the ICJ, my message to you is that this is this opportunity that you can be creative to apply social justice and people first at the heart of your systems. These aren't our systems. These are your systems, but you can shape the way these systems be and center our people and our communities and our culture first. You were there for my community when you reprimanded Australia as the first developed nation to pay loss and damage. And we won on the basis of culture and on the rights to remain on our homelands. 2 years ago, we were told to leave, that we would have to leave soon. Where can we go? It is not our land where we can go to. And so to the ICJ, you were there for my people. Let's be there for others. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your message. We will now move on to our last speaker. We're running really out of time and we apologize for that. We'll try to keep this one short and thank you very much. So this is Aisha. She will introduce herself.
I will indeed keep it short. My name is Aisha Siddiqa, and unlike my colleagues that came before me, I'm from a little far up north. I'm from a tribal peoples in Pakistan, and in my culture, we are taught from an early age that Earth is a conscious being, that it is aware of each human and animal residing on it, from the ants to the elephants. And the Earth not only feels our footsteps, but it is aware of the tone with which we take them. We learn that we are as close to the Earth as we once were to the wombs of our mother. That just like the animals and plants, humans evolved to survive in their specific habitats. That there is symbiosis between the mountain people and the mountains, between the river dwellers and the river, and between the desert and the people of the desert. That when they are when they are removed or forced to leave, the feeling of loss is mutual and felt by both the earth and the displaced. That the sense of homelessness is one of the most violent pains one man can inflict on another. That we are mere visitors, passers-by, and when we return to the earth, we go empty-handed. Last year, 33 million people in my country were displaced. Among them, 16 million were children. That is 16 million little lives, 16 million faces of hope, 16 million nightmares. My ancestral homelands, the soil that is me, that I am, were in pain. We were in pain. My cousins became sick. My uncles who picked me up with their hands are currently on dilators because of the dirty water. We, my family that currently resides in the US, did not want to leave our home. We want to be buried in our lands. We want to drink our water without dying. Life is becoming increasingly difficult for my family because although the rains came from the sky, the floods were caused by the greed of the developed nations that are here. We are nature. We are not done fighting. We are holding the world together with all the love we have left in us. And we need you, the ICJ, to love humanity and the world around us, to invest in a tomorrow. Thank you.